people are seeing young women differently to how they saw our generation. If you're 40 or over, we grew up with all sorts of different stereotypes. So you stay at home, you cook and you clean and you serve your meals to your husband, and that's still the case with a lot of different cultures, right? In the Asian culture, still the case. We're a little less than the husbands, and not in my case, but it's still there, and I think we need to still do a lot of work ourselves and with our peers to help the women break out of that mentality of I'm less than my husband or my partner or my brother or the males in my life.
If you're a divorced woman or single mom ready to thrive in the face of adversity and obstacles, this episode is for you. Our guest this week is Deborah Moore. She is a healthy habits coach who is dedicated to helping women and men navigate midlife with confidence and strength. So please get ready to discover how you can nourish your body, strengthen your mind, and age strong no matter your circumstance. I am so excited for this week's guest. I have been a fangirl of hers for quite some time now. She is the stunning Deborah Moore, and she is a healthy habits coach who is dedicated to helping men and women navigate midlife with confidence and strength. And she is here today with us, It Gets Better From Here podcast, so that she can share her wisdom and her inspiring journey of how she got to where she is today. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Deborah. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. I'm really excited too. I hope I can help your listeners with whatever aspect of life and wellness they are maybe finding some challenges with.
Absolutely. And I know that this stage here is perfect for our conversation, perfect for how you support your community, because most of our audience members, they are in midlife. And I hope you guys can take a look at the YouTube for the listeners on the podcast. You guys need to take a look at the YouTube because Deborah is stunning. She does not look like, it's 54, right?
I'm 54 now, yes. 54 in January I turned, yeah.
Incredible. I mean, not even 40 probably. So I'm sure you get this a lot. Tell us a little bit about your, or just share with us your background. Like, first of all, I love your accent. I've watched your lives. I'm like, ooh, I think you're from Canada, right?
Well, I like to confuse people. I do live in Canada because I'm married to a Canadian. Been married for, I have to do the math, but almost 30 years. So I moved to Canada in my 20s, but I grew up all over the world. So most people can't really figure out where I'm from because my accent is a bit mixed. I am actually half Chinese and grew up in Singapore to a Chinese mother and a blonde-haired, blue-eyed English father. But then I did move to Australia. So my accent has a little bit of the Australian, a little bit of the English because I moved back to England for university, but met my Canadian husband in England where he was also studying. And we've pretty much lived in Toronto ever since, Toronto, Canada. Yeah.
That's such a beautiful place. I was there for a conference and oh my gosh, the city's so vibrant and it's just stunning. I think, it was in March when we first did a location scout and then we went back in September. So the range in weather from February or March to September, I'm like, I thank God I packed layers because I didn't know what the hell was going on, know? So, but it's just fantastic. There, you could walk to all sorts of places, the restaurants, the culture, the museums. It's phenomenal.
Yeah,
Deborah, I love living here.
That's actually what we actually were posted overseas for a little bit in between children. I have 3 children, and between the first and the second two are a set of twins. We actually lived in Singapore again, and I think going away makes you kind of appreciate what you had. And Toronto is not perfect by any means, like any major American, North American city. we have our problems with crime and poverty, and danger, break-ins, that sort of thing. But overall, it's a really amazing place to bring up children, and to have, or even if you don't have children, it's an amazing place to live. And the main reason, I think, is because we're such a multicultural society here. If you asked actually a Canadian, what is it to be Canadian, like what ethnicity, I don't think people can really answer you with one straight answer. Here in Toronto, we have huge Portuguese, Filipina, Ethiopian, Jamaican communities, and it means that we have a really vibrant food and arts and culture scene. So that's the reason I love it. And we have actually a lot of green space too in the city.
It really is a fantastic place. You guys need to go visit because it is beautiful. And, like Deborah and I were saying, that there's the culture and it's really like a melting pot. There's so much
Really is.
variety. It really is. It's amazing. And so thank you for sharing that, Deborah. So you moved around. How did I know you've been active because like for all your life, you're just an athlete because like I said, I've been following you and consuming your content because I'm such a fan of you and what you stand for and who you are and how you present your content. It's very real, it's very relatable. You share even that, like the hate, like when I love those things when you respond to it, and you are so cute when you're saying like, yeah, I got this comment when a user was saying like, oh well, you have like hanging skin,
The
and
love
your response, love handles. And my gosh, guys, like I said, all the information for Deborah is going to be in the show notes. Catch her on my YouTube channel because she is stunning. There's nothing like, but people just want to break other women down, other
yeah,
men, other people down because they're not happy with themselves. And I feel sad for those people. You
yeah.
know, I feel
I really, that the love handles one went a little bit viral, and I honestly, I try to avoid. I like to take the high road, and I try to avoid criticizing or throwing hate back at people because I really don't think that achieves anything. It doesn't make the world a better place. I usually take the high road, but I guess that day I was feeling a little bit feisty, and my primary goal with my Instagram content is to actually let other women know, mostly women, because it is majority women who follow me, is to let other women know that this type of stuff is not okay. This type of behavior, these types of comments are not okay, and to show them that people will say these things, but you can't let it bring you down. You have to strike your power pose. I love that. I love doing the power pose thing, and we can I can describe that another time. But I like to stand up tall and just say, you know what, this is who I am. And even if I do have love handles, which I actually do have a little bit of flesh to pinch there, I don't care. You own it. You stand up and you own your body, and if you work hard and you take care of yourself, it doesn't matter actually what you look like. You just own it, and you say, take it or leave it, I don't care. You don't have power over me or my body, so go take a hike.
I think that's so powerful what you said. And yes, I can imagine with the amount of followers you have, I'm over 100. I don't know what's the number. It's over 100 and
I think it's 160,000 now, so
I
yeah.
mean, gosh,
Always
yes,
gets hate.
there's there I mean that's amazing, and we have to be, yes, very intentional with how we respond. And for the most part, it's, just taking the high road, doing the power pose. But sometimes, like, I mean, we're human. As much as I do so much work on myself and I'm conscientious, oh my gosh, Deborah, people try me.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
the other day I just got a comment. It was actually a collaboration with another guest, and so they had made a comment on what she had said, on the little clip. It was like a 10-second clip. All of a sudden, this person, a male, is judging and like saying all sorts of things. So yeah, I reposted it and I said, listen, opinions are like assholes, everybody has them. I just put a funny spin on it, but it's true. It's like, but you know what's beautiful? Because that conversation opened up and my guest educated the user by a like real what you did, you posted, you educated. She it ended up being a beautiful conversation. And
Right.
so it turned him around and said, well, I didn't realize that was actually what. So that's what
That,
you did, I feel
that's,
like, with,
I
that
think,
one that
well,
I saw.
I was possibly a little bit ruder because, I flipped the bird and all the rest of it. But I do most of the time, 99.9% of the time, and I used to do quite a bit of life coaching too. I like to tell people you really don't know what's going on in other people's lives. You don't know how they grew up. You don't know what sort of day they had that day. And even so, even if this guy did make a pretty horrific, it was just a rude comment. I did feel a little bit of me felt a bit bad for kind of posting him and calling him out, because I thought, what if he just had a really bad day and was just trying to kind of vent, and you have to try and have a little bit of compassion sometimes for people, or at least a little bit of understanding that we have no idea what's going on, and to then try to be kind, or at least just walk away. So that's usually what I remember. Just that day I didn't. I kind of went for it.
But
But
that's okay, Deborah.
yeah,
You must get a slew. And so there's the one off where, you know what, it kind of struck you not the right way. And so,
yeah,
yes, but the ones that know you love you for who you are and they know who you are, and that's not your style.
yeah,
So
yeah,
sometimes,
right.
I like, here's what I think. I feel like people need to know that, hey, just because you make a comment doesn't mean that you're safe.
Yes,
So, I mean, you are posting on a public forum, it is social media. So if you're, that ballsy to put whatever XYZ comment, I mean, then
yeah.
you need to be able to take the heat.
That's right. And people say that to me all the time when I respond with, say, a silly reel where I flip people the bird or I call them out. They say, well, you should know that you open yourself up to this because you're on a public account. And, if your reel goes viral, you should expect it. And I say, yes, I expect it. It's part of the game, but it doesn't mean that it's okay. It doesn't make it right. And again, more often than not, I post the response because there are so many women out there, and I've been one of them, who lack so much self-confidence, and I know that they get similar comments, or they get from their own families. Sometimes they put on a pair of shorts to go work out, and the family member will say, are you really going to wear that to the gym? I mean, look at your legs. I have a Chinese mother. They don't have a lot of filters, and a lot of ethnic families are the same, right? They just kind of say what they think. And I know that that destroys people. And, it's ridiculous, because why should you not be able to wear what you want just because somebody else doesn't think it's appropriate, or that you don't look good? I don't have skinny little legs. I have big, pretty big, powerful legs, and I like them. And I will wear my booty shorts until they put me in the box in the ground. It's more comfortable. So that's the sort of thing, that's the reason I post these things, is not for my own, like, look at me. And it's because there's so many women, I get so many DMs from women saying, how do you have the confidence to do stuff like that? Like wear the booty shorts. What about, the looks that you get? I don't care. I don't care. And you shouldn't either.
That's phenomenal, Deborah, because as someone that's starting out fairly new to the game of, putting myself out there and sharing my story of a painful divorce, which is part of the healing, right? Not just the
Right.
training, but it's really like that's what it is. It's the storytelling. And when I was on the other side, like you were saying, I focused on the maybe the one thing that that person that I was listening to was saying, and I'd run with it, and that mindset shift. So that's what you're doing, and you are so brave and so courageous to show up in that way for your community, because we are exposed. We
Yes.
have a target on our back.
Yes.
And right.
You think that people think that it's changed so much for women, and I think, thank goodness, I have a 17-year-old daughter and a couple more daughters in the pipeline, coming up through teenagehood. And thank goodness in their era, it's changing. There, people are seeing young women differently to how they saw our generation. If you're 40 or over, we grew up with all sorts of different stereotypes. So you stay at home, you cook and you clean and you serve your meals to your husband, and that's still the case with a lot of different cultures, right? In the Asian culture, still the case. We're a little less than the husbands, and not in my case, but it's still there. And I think we need to still do a lot of work ourselves and with our peers to help the women break out of that mentality of I'm less than my husband or my partner or my brother or the males in my life. And I'm not a raging feminist by any means. I'm all about empowerment, empowering women to just take care of themselves, put themselves first for a little bit.
Yes.
It's difficult because we've been so conditioned to children and husbands and family and mother-in-law and everybody else first, and then the next thing you know, you're exhausted and not feeling great.
Right. And for our audience of, my community, divorced women and single moms, my gosh, this is
Oh,
a topic
triply.
every single day, right?
Yeah,
It's very tricky. And also, if you add me being Filipino, I can completely relate to your upbringing. I know what that's like. It's like you can't get it right. You lose weight, you're too skinny. You gain weight, you're fat. It's like, fuck, man, do we have a middle ground?
that's
Can I
right.
can I get anything right? So, and talk about like being the last person on the line, like down the list. Oh,
Yes.
so I totally can relate to you, Deborah. Can you just share with us also? But before we do that, can you tell me how did you become a healthy habits coach? That's very fascinating.
Oh, right. Okay. So I used to be in advertising and marketing for quite a while, working in an ad agency, client service, marketing strategy. And in my entire adult life, I've always been into health and fitness. My husband and I, we met very young and we used to do triathlons together. So we did a bunch of triathlons, including all the way up to the Ironman distance. Did the World Championships in Kona, Hawaii. It was a great, amazing experience. But one day, so I was at my ad agency, and everybody knew that I did this crazy stuff. And one of my colleagues asked me, "Look, I really want to get fitter, and I'm thinking of running a 5K, but I have no idea where to start." So I just wrote her a little program. And she had a great time. She crossed the finish line, loved it, went on to run several more 10Ks and half marathons. And then other people started asking me to coach them for running. And then other people started to ask me to coach them for triathlons. So I wasn't a personal trainer. I didn't actually train them one-on-one in person, but I would write programs for them to take them from where they are now to where they wanted to be. And I would check in with them. I'd give them nutrition advice. I'd give them mindset advice. And it just kind of, so I did a lot of coaching for Ironman triathletes as well. And it just kind of progressed from there. And I realized that the thing that was kind of this constant in all of these types of coaching that I've done was this, the establishing the habit. You can't go from couch to 5K without showing up regularly. And that is actually the piece that people struggle with the most. It's the, getting to the workouts regularly, trying to figure out how to establish a healthy nutrition strategy regularly, not, eat healthy for 4 days and then go off the rails for 3 weeks. Thinking about managing your stress. A lot of, your audience would be in that boat where stress is really, really, really high. And let me tell you, perimenopause is already a problem with the stress levels. So I got into, incorporating stress management into my coaching practice because it is such a huge factor in your overall health. even just daily movement, getting up from our desks, and just taking a break. Hydration, that's another healthy habit that you need to actually work on. People think all of these things come naturally. If I just eat healthy, I'll be healthy. You actually have to practice it. So that's when I started to, instead of thinking about just coaching people on strength or on, Ironman or running or whatever it was, I thought, you know what, it needs to be the full picture, because that's where we start to feel great. If you don't have one, the other one suffers. So if you're training like crazy for a marathon or a half marathon, if you're not looking after your nutrition, your stress management, recovery, sleep, you're going to break down, and that's where the injuries happen, and that's where people give up because they feel terrible. So they give up.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing that you're doing, and it's actually very, at least for me, and I'm out there. I'm always researching, reading, learning, but it's very unique where you're at in their journey. You are in the habit creation, because who cares? You maybe can sustain something for 21 days,
Right,
60 something days, right? But really, is it a lifestyle? Which is
right,
what you are really helping your clients set them up for success from the beginning
right.
because of the habits, right? And that's amazing, Deborah. I freaking love what you're doing. What can you like do you have any tips for my community of divorced women and single moms who, gosh, they want to get healthy. They want to start a habit. They don't even know where to begin because, again, there's the stress, there's the kids. So, where can we begin?
So, the single biggest piece of advice, I think, and this is where most people go wrong, is to pick one thing. One thing. Everybody gets to January 1st and they kind of go, okay, I'm going to start working out 3 times a week. I'm going to drink more water every day. I'm going to go for walks every day. I'm going to, start eating more salads. And they try and implement, 5 things all at once. So, tomorrow, you or one of your listeners could say, I am going to start a daily walk. If they're not active already, I'm going to start a daily walk. 15 minutes in the morning, or after kids have been dropped off at school. I'm going to spend an extra 15 minutes after school drop off walking a few times around the block, and then I'm going to get in my car and drive home. That's it. That's it. One habit. And when you feel that habit feels a bit more comfortable, and by the way, the research shows that it takes an average of about 66 days to establish a new habit. That's from James Clear, Atomic Habits. So 66 days, but you might find after 2-3 weeks, okay, this feels like it's comfortable, it's manageable. Then you can introduce another habit. I'm going to drink an extra glass of water every day. Second big tip is make it visible and obvious. So if it's things like I want to eat more vegetables or I want to drink an extra glass of water every day, have it in your line of sight. I have, this fantastic insulated bottle right next to my laptop all day. So I can't help but not look at it. I can't help but look at it. And that tells me, okay, I got to take a sip. Or vegetables, have them right in the center of the fridge instead of that crisper drawer that's kind of semi-hidden, down on the right-hand side. That's where my veggies are. Have a Tupperware with the baby carrots and the cut peppers and whatever else. And it's right in your line of sight when you open the fridge, because we humans are very visual creatures. You can read all you like about you need to do this, you need to do this, but if it's not visible to you, it's probably not going to happen. So those are the two main tips. There's a whole bunch
I
of other.
think they're great. I think these tips. I'm just thinking of myself and where I was, and even now when I'm so busy, being a single mom and being a solopreneur. Just what can I do? And the way that my mind is, it's like, okay, I'm gonna do all the things. I'm
Right.
gonna put this out. I'm not gonna eat that. And oh my gosh, it's like, my goodness, okay, I am worn out.
Yeah, it's overwhelming for sure. Even I get overwhelmed sometimes because, as somebody, if you're a solopreneur, you're probably a very driven person. So when you're a driven person, you just want to achieve it all, right? And so that translates into all other aspects of your life. And also as a single mom, and or your listeners, so many of them are single parents, you have a lot going on, and it kind of scrambles your brain a little bit. It's hard to think about the priorities when you have so many things coming at you. It's like you've got 1,000 different fires, and all of them feel like they need to be put out ASAP. So the reality is that these things will still be there a month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now. They're not going to run. They're not going to go away. You're not going to lose the chance to establish a new habit. So you just need to pick one at a time. And sorry, I should have said the third, sort of key tip is, if you want to establish a new habit, apart from making it visual, if it's not a visual habit like the going for a walk thing, put it in your calendar. Make your health and wellness, it should be as important as your kids' doctor's appointments, your work meetings, whatever it is. It needs to go in that the calendar. You want to go for that 15-minute walk. You have your kids drop off. You put 15 minutes, that little color-coded thing, at the time that it's supposed to be after kids pick up or drop off, and put an alert on it, an audible alert that lets you know you have to do this. And don't let anything else, unless it's an emergency, don't let anything else slip into that window. Same with other workouts, same with lunch. That's the other thing. I see a lot of women, and particularly busy women who are single parents like you, I see them not eating proper meals because they're just trying to get the kid here and the kid there, and they've got no one else to sort of support them to take their children somewhere, but they don't eat. So that's a little bit of preparation. But if you put a lunch break in, 20 minutes even, put it in your calendar, put the laptop away, and go get yourself some food.
That's amazing, Deborah. I'm just like, my brain, as you're, saying these things, I'm like, oh my God, my calendar's going to be filled, because I don't put it in my calendar. I just, okay, I'm waking up this day, but then my day, that's why I have to work out first thing in the morning. But
Right.
I'm changing things because I have this upcoming guest who is a brain scientist, and I learned so much from him. He's a best-selling author, and so he said, if you want to set up yourself for success for bedtime, you have to do it first thing in the morning. And he
Right.
said you need to walk, get the vitamin D first. So now I've changed my schedule around, but then I'm missing my workouts because it's not in my calendar. So, okay, thank you for that tip. I'm going to, be very busy here, pick one thing and stick to
One
it.
thing. One thing.
And yes, and definitely, the make it visible. I love that tip. The veggies, especially. Mine is like where yours is, like way in the dungeon. Or yeah, but you already have the habit. So for people like me, we have to make sure it's where we can see it. And
Yeah.
then the other thing too is the calendar. That's
Yes.
really, I mean, so
Yeah.
key. I can just see it happening because it's like, oh, it's there. The
Yeah.
alert is
Well,
there, and
and if you're not putting it into your calendar, it subconsciously says, my stuff is not as important as all of these other people's things. So, you and your community have been kind of pushed to the bottom of the list for so long. Now it's time for you to push yourself like way to the top of the list. And I like to remind my clients as well, some of whom are also single parents, that of the airline oxygen mask analogy. Everybody's like, well, they need me, my kids need me. But when you get on a plane, they say to you, put your own mask on first so that you can help others. So you need to take care of yourself first so that you can actually take care of your children, your aging parents, whoever else needs your help. If you don't take care of yourself, you are not going to be any use to them at all.
please listen to what Deborah's saying. And I'm going to share with you guys that I mean, Deborah has been so amazing and just very flexible with the scheduling, because we had this scheduled a couple weeks before the actual recording date today, which is May 8th. I had a fainting spell.
Right.
And I hit my head on the concrete. Okay, guys, I hit my head on the concrete. And thank God there was a bicycle that was right by where I fell, because my head hit the bike tire and
Wow.
it softened my fall. Otherwise, I know it would have been catastrophic.
Really bad. Yeah.
It was shocking that I didn't injure myself more. I didn't have a concussion. But I mean, I'm telling you, I'm barely recovering with the bump on my head. I didn't have any internal bleeding or anything. But what, like Deb is saying, eating. Okay, I didn't realize that I had been running myself to the ground, and I was dehydrated based off of my labs, and also I was hungry, but I just let the hunger go, and I'll eat later. Well, the later, like what she was saying, we push ourselves way down on the list. It never happened to the point where I ended up passing out, and it was very scary because the first thing I thought about is my kids. I can't be irresponsible.
Right.
We can't, right? There's too many people depending on us. And like what Deborah's saying, listen to the oxygen mask analogy and listen to what I'm telling you right now, because it just happened to me. For all the things that I know, it happened to me.
Right.
So
And the problem is that a lot of people, they think of their kids, but they think if I just give more and do more and try harder for my kids, it'll be okay. But it won't be. It won't be. If you push yourself too hard and you don't take care of yourself, God forbid something like that will happen to someone else in your community, and it may be even worse. Thank goodness you're okay. And sometimes it's not, you see this, what happened to you, some people think, well, that's a discrete event, right? You were dehydrated or whatever it was and you passed out. But sometimes it's a cumulative thing. So it might have been days and weeks of you overworking yourself, not paying attention to your nutrition and your hydration and your overall stress levels as well, plays very highly into it. And this is very common in single parenting because you are overloaded. There's only one of you and you're trying to keep all the plates spinning, and at some point they can all stay up spinning for a while, but at some point it loses momentum and they all come crashing to the ground. So you really have to be very aware of the length of time, the consistency thing again, this consistency habit. You cannot just all of a sudden fix something that's already broken in one shot. It has to be something that is maintained over a consistent period of time for it to work.
I love what you said about, like, yes, perhaps you could spin the plates for a certain amount of time, but then they will come crashing. They will come crashing down.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
you don't know when. And you're right. I don't know when. Yeah, I don't know how long it's been cumulative, because I've been on this schedule of, up just hitting it hard. And someone that I feel like I drink so much water, I didn't drink enough water. I
Right.
didn't, like just these really obvious things that I never thought I would experience, which is, I let myself get so hungry, so dehydrated, so overworked that I freaking passed out.
Right. Or, you're talking about hydration. Maybe you are drinking a decent amount, but your electrolyte levels are off. If you are not, it's one of the problems we see quite a bit. In this day, everyone knows they have to eat clean, which means less sodium, because that's what the WHO says and that's what the, FDA says. And so everyone's avoiding salt. We actually need more salt than you think, because salt is potassium and sodium is what helps muscles function properly and and keeps our blood concentration at the right level. If you have too much water without the electrolytes, you can actually end up with such low blood pressure that you pass out. So Anyway, just food for thought.
That is so smart, Deborah. You totally called me out on that because I've been watching my salt intake. I don't even, I like bland food, but I purposely am avoiding even putting any salt on anything because, again, there's so much out there. There's so
Right.
much out there. We just don't
So
know.
confusing, so confusing, right? And this is the problem with health and coaching health people for health and nutrition. There's no one strategy that fits everybody. There really isn't. I mean, there are basic principles. Eat some good lean protein, eat lots of colorful fruit and veggies, complex carbs, try to limit alcohol and processed foods. Basic principles will apply to everybody, but how much sodium and potassium you need will be different from the next person. How you were talking about possibly being a little sensitive to blood sugar swings earlier before we went on air, and that's very individual. Your caloric needs, very individual. I actually eat probably more than my husband. I'm 5'2" and 126 pounds, and he's almost 6 foot and 185 pounds. I eat more than he does because I don't know, I just need it. And the thing is, you have to experiment with these things. So that's the other issue with, women trying to find what works for them is, a lot of experimentation, and people do tend to be a little impatient because they want to make sure that, the weight that they've put on, that they lose that, or they want the results right away. You have to be patient and test.
When you say this is great that you brought that up, Deborah, because I can probably speak to a majority of the people listening right now, is that sometimes we are afraid to eat more. We've
Yes.
been so conditioned, calorie, like 1,200 calories. And it's like, my gosh, that's nothing, like the old way. Yes. And so I'm 45. I grew up with all these damn fad diets and all of the things that they said we are supposed to eat, not supposed to eat.
Yeah.
You have to not eat. I mean, like, do you have any advice, like,
Yeah, well,
where
first of all, if I could shoot that 1,200 number down, I would. If I could get rid of the number 1,200, I'm so tired of hearing that number as what women should be eating. Do you know that 1,200 is actually the subsistence? If you were in a coma, in hospital, not moving at all, that's how much the average person would need, is 1,200 calories in a coma. Toddler needs at least 800. Like a 2-year-old toddler needs 800 at least. Okay, so basic advice. Again, there is no one eating strategy that is going to be the magic bullet for everybody. However, I would say, in my opinion, the way of eating that comes the closest is the Mediterranean type of diet, right? So that's your lean meats and protein and fish. Little less heavy on the red meat. Not that, it's not terrible red meat. It's not poison for you. It's not going to give you a heart attack. Little less on the red meat. Lots of lean chicken, fish, shrimp. Lots of colorful fruits and veggies. And fruits. Oh my God, people demonize fruit because it's carbs and it's sugar. Just have a balance. Lots of fruits and veggies, complex carbohydrates. So, things like oats, brilliant for breakfast. Slow release, low glycemic index carbs. Sweet potatoes, fantastic. Rice is great. But again, it's all about the proportion and the balance. And this is where it gets tricky because everybody needs something different. And that's why when I coach people on the nutrition side of things, it's all about macros, the protein, fats, and carbs, and finding the right proportion of those. If you find the right proportion is for you, you can basically eat whatever you want. If you want a bit of chocolate and it fits into your carbohydrate macros for the day, great, go have the chocolate. But the one thing you have to remember is you are fueling your body for optimal performance, whether that's brain performance, being able to enjoy like your afternoon with your kids in the park, or your athletic stuff. Always think about what should I put in my body that is going to optimally fuel me for those things. Is it going to be donuts and chicken wings and French fries? Probably not. You can have those things once a week, maybe even a couple of times a week. You can have anything you like on a macro eating plan, but it may not be optimal. So we always want to think about the best quality of food that we can put in our body so it can function at its best. So that would be, to me, Mediterranean diet probably hits those things.
I've heard a lot of amazing things about the Mediterranean diet, and it's not, eliminating
Right.
food groups. It seems like it's a really wholesome way of, like it's a colorful plate.
Yes.
You have carbs and you can eat fruit and
Yes.
veggies.
And, you mentioned elimination of things. And, I know there are many of your listeners out there who are looking at, keto, and they're scared of eating carbs because they're told that carbs are what make you gain weight. Carbs do not make you gain weight. There is so much research out there that shows that the keto, so let's take keto, which basically is very minimal carbs, very high protein, and also moderate protein and very high fat, right? That's what keto is. It is no more effective at sustained weight loss than any other form of caloric restriction. So you want to just reduce your calories overall, you'll achieve the same result as keto. You want to do intermittent fasting, which I don't love either, you will have the same results as keto. What it does show is that keto will help you lose weight faster at the beginning, of course, because you're eliminating almost a whole food group, but then everyone else, all the other ways of eating catch up with you. So, and to me, intermittent fasting or eliminating food groups does one thing. It makes you miserable because you miss the things that you enjoy, Life for your audience, life is probably pretty challenging as it is. There are so many challenges. Why do you want to then add this challenge of, oh, I can't have, rice because I'm doing keto, and your friend invites you out for dinner, and you finally find a babysitter for your kids, or your ex has taken your kids and you're going out for dinner. Oh, but I can't go here because it's too many carbs, and I can't go here because they don't really have a keto option. I mean,
That
really,
sounds miserable.
why?
Yes, and you're right. You know what? While I'm saying it sounds so miserable, I've been there and it is miserable.
Yeah,
So yes, and it never works. My gosh, I can't tell you how many times I've had the last supper. You know what that is, Deborah? Like, I'm never ever eating this again. So I'm like, oh my God, how many last supper meals have made me gain so much weight because
right,
I'm never ever eating something again? And guess what? I am eating that damn thing that I said I wasn't going to eat like the very next day because I'm
right,
going to start again the next day. It's
right.
a horrific cycle.
It
Horrific.
it is, and I usually my approach, my mindset is the 80-20, or you can call it 85-15 or 90-10, whatever ratio you want to give it, of 90% of the time or 85% of the time you eat well. And by well, I mean, protein focus, whole food focus, fruits and veggies, the odd, and then the 15% of the time, or whatever ratio you go with, is okay, maybe this isn't the greatest for me, but I love it and I'm going to have it. So if you are out with your kids on a weekend and everyone's getting ice cream, get the ice cream. If you're eating ice cream every day, then it's a problem. It's not a huge problem, but it might not help you reach your goals. But 80-20, 85-15, 90-10, whatever ratio you choose, that's how you should approach life. And by the way, I also don't love this cheat meal idea. A lot of people who are in the bodybuilding world talk about they have their broccoli and boiled chicken breast and rice, like, for all the meals of the week, and then they have their cheat day or a cheat meal. I don't love that either, because it's still a form of restriction mentally. You're denying yourself pleasure from food for this huge amount of time, and then you get to your cheat day and you go absolutely bananas and just, to use your term, excuse the language, eat like an asshole. And you may not actually even put on weight doing that. You probably won't. except for water retention, but you'll feel really awful. And then you'll feel guilty. And then you'll over restrict the following week. So it's not a good situation.
It's such a miserable thing. So I'm glad that you know what I love about what you're saying, Deborah, with all of the tips and, like wisdom that you're sharing here, is really like loving yourself and giving yourself compassion. And I love that approach. And, gosh, I'm going to be a client later on when I have the capacity for it, because it takes commitment. So I
Yes.
want to be, when I'm ready to commit to my health in that way, really have the time and focus, I'm going to be asking you, I'm gonna, hey, I'm ready to be a client. So, and in fact, I work with a lot of my, like some of my guests, I'm actually clients of theirs. Like I have a perimenopause coach. I'm going
Okay.
through that. Yes. So it's, I really, I'm a fan. I mean, I'm not just asking people here to randomly come on the show. Like, first of all, of course, they have to have the same values, the same mission. And then, my community having that input and insight is really all for, it's a win-win. And I do work with the ones that, I really connect with and I need the help. So that will
Right.
be me later, Deborah. And I'm very
Well,
excited. I love everything that you're saying.
Well, so on that note, as I've been talking about my clients, I have been doing one-to-one healthy habits coaching. I'm actually, and this may all be good or bad news for you, I don't know, but I'm actually transitioning a little more towards creating digital courses or groups, more kind of like group work. So something like, say, a 6 week, healthy habits course. I'm even developing one that is around perimenopause, for dealing with perimenopause through healthy habits, macros 101, teaching people, what is a macro? What does it even mean? What do they do? How do I manage them? How do I even figure out what I need? And the reason I'm doing that versus the one-to-one coaching is, as I said, I have a lot of followers and I simply cannot help the number of people that have been messaging me saying, I would like you to coach me. So by, and a lot of them are in different time zones, by the way. Some of them, I have, believe it or not, a lot of followers in India and in Europe who are, 6 hours ahead, or Australia and New Zealand. So it's really hard for me to turn these people down because the times just don't match up, or I don't have capacity. So keep an eye out for that. My Macros 101 will be the first course out there. It'll be really affordable, under $30 Canadian. And it'll be self-paced, so that one of your community might be only have 9 o'clock at night after kids have gone to bed. They can do 15 minutes of this course to understand what macros are, and then the next day they can do another 15 minutes to understand how to work with macros, or how do you figure out your macros, as a little worksheet for them. So that's the sort of thing I'm going to be doing, because it allows me to help more people, and that's all I really want.
I was going to say, I think that is, the best thing to do for someone like you who has such a huge following and can help so many more people, but you can't split your body into so many different, like exactly, that too. It's like, how do you, like, we can't. And I'm doing the same thing. I have a program that I'm launching, She Thrives Academy, and it's a 90-day program, because I can't be everywhere all at once, but it will have my own, like they'll get 6 sessions with me throughout the 90 days, and then they have a human design person, my expert, that's going to be giving them sessions as well. But it's a self-paced module, so it's not like the one-on-one like you said, but I will be a student as opposed to a one-on-one client then, if
Right.
that's the direction. So as long as I'm doing something that you are putting out there, Deborah, I'm a fan. I'm
Aw.
doing it. Yeah, and everyone, you guys need to go visit Deborah with all of her links in the show notes. And also, please take a look at how gorgeous she is. Go on her Instagram and go on my YouTube. And I mean, I swear, you probably get that all the time. You don't look anywhere near your age, which brings me to my next question. about
Yes.
aging strong. And
Yeah.
that's really one of the biggest things that made me, start following you, because you're, like the inspiration that I get from you, and also that you're giving your community, that you don't have to be this, midlife, it's over after 40, 45. You are killing it. Like,
Well,
I can't, the workouts, oh my God,
I didn't
you're
even
amazing.
I didn't even start CrossFit until close to my 50th birthday. So I was a triathlete before that. Obviously, all my adult life I've been a triathlete and running and swimming and biking, but I never really did any strength work. I did a few dumbbell things here and there. Never touched a barbell in my life until my husband started doing CrossFit, and I thought, I don't know, that looks a bit dodgy to me. I'm not sure I like that. But then I was so bored, and I knew that I had to do something for my bone density and all the rest of it. So I started doing CrossFit with him. I went to some classes to get some coaching on form and all the rest of it. And now I'm hooked. I love it. I did go out and get my CrossFit level 1 trainer certification and my sports nutrition certification, but it really is so important. I know that most of your audience probably has read about the importance for things like, bone density, and, the fact that after 35, never mind 50, after 35, we start losing muscle mass very quickly, very, very quickly. And if you do not do some sort of resistance training, you will not replace your muscle fast enough, and you will decline, right? One of the most horrific stats I keep reading is, people who fall and break their hip. 60 or maybe 70% of those over the age of 70 who fall and break their hip will not make it out of hospital. They die because it's so traumatic, and they never regain the muscle from lying in bed from the recovery. It's just horrific. And one of the reasons people fall is they don't have the strength and the stability when they step off a curb. They don't have the strength in their legs, right?
I am
So,
shocked. Like, my face and my mouth is like on the floor, because what? Something as simple as that. But see, we take it for granted.
right. And I think as you age, if you will start to see that if you're not doing the strength work, you'll start to feel a bit more unsteady on your feet, and that's because of the lack of muscular strength. The other thing about strength training is, it actually improves your cognition, your brain function is improved doing strength work. Most important thing for me is the learning. I think a lot of women, especially at our age, we kind of, or men as well, actually, I shouldn't say it's only women, but we get to a certain age and we kind of go, well, I've kind of gone through the peak of my career, I've raised my children, now it's time to just relax. And they kind of settle. You can relax, but they kind of settle for this, oh, well, physically I'm going to start going downhill because that's what I've known all along from my parents, right? And society telling me that it's all downhill. We get weaker and weaker and more frail. And I don't need to do anything else new. I don't need to learn anything else new because it's my time to relax now. But you don't have to take on some massive project like, start your own business like you did, or run a podcast, but you can learn new things like how to work with a barbell. That's learning something new. I learned how to do handstand push-ups and butterfly pull-ups, the weird CrossFit pull-ups that you see. I learned that age 52 after I dislocated
Wow.
my shoulder. So, I think keeping that curiosity by doing things like picking up strength training, which is probably new to a lot of your audience, is what will help keep you young and in a really good mindset.
I think what you just said with the, I'm still there where you said you just started CrossFit. Did you say 50?
Yeah,
50?
close to 50,
I'm
40.
shocked. My gosh, it looks like you are a pro. I'm like, oh, she's probably been doing this for decades. That's amazing. So, to my amazing community, you can learn and you can start over at any age,
Yes.
and Deborah, what can, okay, and I love this topic right now. Like the aging strong, like we've been, touching on, is a very powerful concept. What, like, can you just give us maybe some tips that's worked for you? How can we embrace the aging process with such grace and confidence like you have?
I think it comes back to curiosity, not being fearful. That I think I don't remember who the quote is originally from, but I love Ted Lasso. I think Jason
I
Sudeikis,
love him.
and he said it was a scene where he was playing darts, and it was his quote was, "Don't be judgmental, be curious." I've turned it into, don't be scared, don't be fearful, be curious. Right? Things happen to us not to punish us necessarily, but they happen for a reason, and there's almost always a solution. So if your one of your community is like, they aches and pains, or they have the early stages of osteopenia, which is the precursor to osteoporosis, they shouldn't sit back and kind of say, well, that's it then. You know, there's nothing I can do. Get curious. Ask yourself, what can I do? Seek out expert help. Ask people, what can I do? Can I do something with osteopenia? Or I'm a single mom. I don't have a lot of time. Don't just say, well, then I can't do anything. What can I do? Can I do some push-ups in my living room for 10 minutes, in the day? Can I do air squats? What sort of home gym equipment can I buy? Like some bands or a couple of dumbbells. I think that is the key to aging strong, before all the mindset stuff. Well, this is mindset stuff, but before all these kind of motivational things, it's just, don't settle. Get curious, and don't put so much importance in a number that's on your birth certificate. I mean, I still, I'm 54 and I still feel like I'm 20 something. I just, maybe that's partly the healthy living, but I think a lot of it is up here. So that would be the first thing I would say, is you got to change this up here. And instead of saying, oh my God, I'm old, who cares? People don't really know how old you are. I mean, I would not be able to tell you how old you are just from looking at you. It's all about your ability. What are you capable of? What are you capable of? Not what is your age? It's what are you capable of? What is your body capable of? And meet yourself where you're at right now. Don't think, oh, it's going to take me too long to be able to do what Deborah does. Who cares? Like, start where you are now. I started where some of your listeners were at. I honestly had never picked up a barbell. Maybe I'd done some triathlon, so I had a bit of the cardiovascular fitness. But I just said, okay, you know what? I'm going to try deadlifting this barbell with two tiny little plates on the end. Oh, that felt okay. I'm going to start adding plates now. Okay, that was a bit harder, but I'm going to keep going. And patience, a whole lot of patience. We're not. What else are we going to do with the rest of these years? I mean, why are we rushing towards something? You just got to, just 1 week at a time.
That's great advice. I love all the things that you said there. And it's a really great starting point to, begin just embracing where we're all heading. And that just, yeah, like you said, the number is not going to define you. Your spirit, like I'm more immature than my kids sometimes. And
Much
I'm just,
more.
yeah, and it's like that's why, and also that plays into our appearance, because we are, we smile more and we're lighter. And
Yes.
so it's gonna make you, you like, you don't even need the Botox or the fillers, but if that's your thing, go for it. You
Yep.
won't need it because you have it naturally, because you're happy. And
Right.
and also, gosh, Deborah, I love that you gave us some time today, and I know that my community is going to just feel so inspired and have hope with everything that you've given us here. And so, as we wrap up, I just love to ask my guests two questions. And
Sure.
the first one is, if you were in a time machine and can go back in time, what's the one thing you would do differently?
I would not. I would try to be. appreciative of what my body can do versus what it looks like. Because I was always wanting to look like someone else. There was a supermodel called Elle Macpherson, 6'2", legs up to here. I wanted to look like her. I was 5'2". I'm 5'2". It's never going to happen. But I'm pretty powerful, and I never fully appreciated that. So that's what I would tell my younger self, is really like give your body some kudos for its performance, not for its looks.
That's great, especially for somebody like me who is overcoming 20 years of body dysmorphia because I was unhappy in my relationship. And I
Mm-hmm.
look back at those photos when I was the fittest I've ever been in my life, but not the healthiest mentally. And
Right.
I'm like, what the hell was I complaining about? But again, my lenses were broken, you know? We're such hard judges. So, okay, the next one is Deborah, while we are still, back in time, what's the one piece of advice you could tell your younger self if you could go back in time?
Oh gosh. Well, to love food a little more, you know, and to really kind of reevaluate that relationship with food. I know it sounds very kind of specific, but it was the driver for just about every aspect of how I lived my life. I think many of us women out there struggled with body image. I actually struggled for a very long time with eating disorders, and just eating disorders and disordered eating and body. Anyway, a whole bunch of things, and it meant that I looked at food as a way to either reward or punish myself, or this enemy in my life. And why was food doing this to me? Why can't I just figure it out and look like her, or whatever it was? And it's not food's fault. It's not food's fault. We can have I have such a wonderful relationship with food now, and the reason that I brought it up as something that's seemingly so specific is because it brings so much joy to my life now that I appreciate what food can do. It can fuel you, it can make you happy, it can open your mind to different cultures. I mean, I come from an amazing culture with the most incredible food, and I love Filipino food, by the way. Um, it really does so much, but more than anything, it has fueled me so amazingly for this phase of my life. Starting CrossFit at 50 changed everything about my relationship with food. I figured out that if I wanted to be strong and lift the weights that I wanted to lift, I needed to eat. I needed to eat well, and I needed to eat more. And now the women that I idolize, are the ones that you see on the TV at CrossFit. And they're not for everybody, but they are the ones who are thick and not bodybuilder. I encourage your audience to look at the difference between the CrossFit girls and, say, the Arnold Classic, bodybuilders who are on, steroids, most of them. The CrossFit girls are vital and vibrant and healthy and have light in their eyes, and they strut down that field like nobody is going to get in their way or tell them what to do. And there's just so much power in that, and it all comes from food and lifting weights. So that's what I would tell a piece of advice I'd tell my younger self.
That's really so valuable, especially for, women like me. And I'm sure also going through such a traumatic divorce, you will turn to food. And for
Yeah.
a long time, and even sometimes now, it's like I'm in a much better place, but making peace with food, like you
Yes.
said, is, really so important.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Hard to do. It is very hard to do after, so 54, since I was 12, right? 12 to the age of
mhm.
50 was a really messed up relationship with food. It's a long time to undo all that stuff. And I still have my bad days, still definitely have my bad days, but it's so much better. And all because of that shift of this is fuel. This is fuel for what I want to do with my body and how I want it to perform. So let's put the good stuff in.
And everything else, honestly, like everything starts with health.
Yes.
I mean, if you don't feel good, your life is going to be as a result of that. But if you feel good and you thrive, you can step out in an even more powerful way.
Yep. 100%. Agree.
Thank you so much, Deborah. And I know you did touch on what, before we close out, I know you did touch on the program that you are working on. Is there anything else that you want to let our community know, and where to find you, even though we're going to have everything in the show notes? So let us know where we can find you and what else you're working on.
Sure. So I mentioned the Macros 101. That's going to be the basics of macros and nutrition. And then the second one I'll be working on is more of a midlife made better, how to navigate menopause, perimenopause through healthy habits. I'm also thinking about, I don't know if you check my stories every morning, but I put a coffee picture and a quote. And I'm also thinking of some sort of journal that has my favorite quotes in it, because a lot of people, that is one thing that people look forward to every day, and I get a lot of feedback on, and it's more of a mindset thing to help people with their reflections and mindset. So those are three things I'm working on, and maybe a recipe book. So we'll see. But best
Oh my
place to
gosh.
Best place to find me is on my Instagram. I'm sure you'll link it in the show notes, but it's at stronger_movement, stronger without the E. You can search up Deborah Moore as well. And if they want to ask questions, I really encourage them to DM me, because I do try to answer every single DM that comes in.
She's great like that, guys, because I made a comment. I mean, I've been commenting. I'm a commenter. Why not? If somebody's putting out good stuff, you know what? I'm going to give them props. So
Yeah,
I did that. And yes, and Deborah responded to me because I said, I'd love to have you on my show. You're such an inspiration. And look, here we are now. So thank you so much, Deborah. I'm so grateful for you. And thank you for being here with us today.
thank you so much, Cheryl. It was a load of fun.
That is it for this week's episode. My gosh, Deborah just gave us so much here, so much knowledge, wisdom, and golden nuggets as to how we can thrive in midlife and beyond. And so just some of the things that we talked about is healthy habits to start, even if you are busy and you're going through a lot in life right now, which my community is, post divorce and being a single parent is one. If you want to create a healthy habit with your health or anything in life for that matter, is pick one thing. Pick the one thing that you're going to be doing, not 5 things that's not going to be sustainable. 2 is make it visible and obvious. Put the vegetables where you can see it, not in that little veggie rack that's hidden and you can't find it. And 3 is you have to be your own advocate, okay? You have to just make sure that you set time in your calendar to do the workouts. Take a curious approach with your health. Don't just get caught up with that, oh, I'm 45 years old, I'm old. I'm 50 years old, I'm old. And this is how my body and my life is going to be from here on out. Don't do that. Advocate for yourself. Listen to this episode. And if you even learned one thing here, please hit that subscribe button. That way we can all help with the mission of, changing the lives of millions of divorced women and single moms with this kind of information. And with that, no matter where you're at in life, no matter how old you are, please know that it gets better from here.